Our facilities application looks to improve your space planning functions. We also look to increase the utilization of these facilities' resources. Operationally, we want to improve your move management activities and your selection and identification of underutilized space. We want to drive efficiencies financially by reducing our facilities' dependency and costs where it's being underutilized. And environmentally, reducing underutilized space has a major impact on your company's carbon reporting and energy dependency of a space that you're no longer using. So let's take a look at some of the key facilities functions that we offer that are going to help drive these efficiencies in your organization. This particular user is a typical space planner that has a view of the occupancy of the entire portfolio at his or her fingertips. One of the things you're going to find with TRIRIGA is a level of personalization. So this particular dashboard you're seeing is set up based on how this user wants to interact with TRIRIGA today. On the top here we have a little personalization wrench which will allow the end user to set it up the way they want to see it. So I can move a few things around. We'll move around my reminders. I'll get rid of this reminders section, and down below just get a few sections off to simplify my view today. And I'll go ahead and hit save. So what I'm going to see in my forefront now is what we refer to as the TRIRIGA portfolio supply and demand. What we do from a space management perspective is we summarize and show the total availability of supply in real estate against the business demand for that real estate in the form of this blue line here. And one of the things we're trying to achieve as a planner to optimize our portfolio is to minimize this particular view here where I have too much vacancy in my portfolio. And I also want to avoid on the right hand side of this chart the situation where I have more business demand for space than space available to seat them. TRIRIGA delivers a series of key performance indicators, KPIs, in the form of what we call Workplace Performance Manager. These KPIs are set up to be views for the individual user that are going to align against the business goals and objectives that they set out for. So this particular planner, you'll see we have customer sat in the top of our thing, making sure our customers that we serve are satisfied with their space. And right now we're yellow today. We have occupancy rate and density type metrics, and these are just one of the many hundreds of metrics that TRIRIGA provides in our suite. Let's take a look at this occupancy one for a minute and take a look at what our situation is here in the workplace today. All of our metrics allow our customers to set up what they refer to as, or what we refer to as your thresholds. And these thresholds are the goals that you've established as what your goals are within this particular case, occupancy rates. And you can see that anything below 75% turns red. In this case, in North America, we're at 69%. Anything above 90% occupancy is yellow, but we're really targeting between 75 and 90 is a good utilization for our portfolio. All of our metrics have the ability to be drill path. So in here we have different ways to view the data. I can look at a geographic drill and see by region around the world where my problems are. And I can go down into the different states, different countries that I maintain and get down to my root cause of where my problems are. We also have other show bys, for example, the locations that I manage. And I can see clearly today that the Dallas campus is the one that has low utilization here in the portfolio that I need to handle as a planner. And I can go down to the individual buildings, and if I wanted to, go down to the individual floors within the portfolio and see where do I have utilization problems identified that I need to take action on to optimize our utilization. Now within TRIRIGA up at the top here with portfolio, we manage what we call people, places, and things. So very quickly I can get a list of all my buildings that I'm responsible for. In TRIRIGA we have Google-like searching. So I can very quickly narrow down to the buildings that I want to zoom in on. We'll go down to the Dallas buildings, and I want to be able to open up a particular building to see information about that site. As a planner, I can go over to the Area Measurements tab, and the Area Measurements will give me all the stats about how the space is currently being used, how much is being prorated to the business, and the roll-up of the square footage. You'll see this particular site happens to be a 6-story building. And we have a hierarchy to allow us to zoom down to the individual floor plans to allow our customers to get utilization data down to the individual spaces on the floor. Here's a web graphic capability that we have in TRIRIGA, the ability to interact directly with AutoCAD and MicroStation as CAD systems, and then dynamically share those CAD views up here to the browser for other users to access. These are full CAD systems that have full fidelity of all the lines and data on the drawing. I can go up here and I have pans and zooms and information, the ability to zoom into all different aspects of the floor. On the left-hand side, I have a little menu option here where I have full layer controls. I can turn layers on and off as I want to see them. So I can turn my doors on. And if I want to turn on my furniture filing cabinets, the ability to turn on these floor plans very easily. And then one of the powers of the product is to be able to catalog and manage how that space is being used. In the system, we have full label controls where the end user can set up label templates for what they want to see on the floor at this given time. So if I zoom in here, right now I'm showing the room number and who the person is sitting in that space. I want to be able to go over here and maybe look at maybe the space and the square footage of that area. Or go down here and see occupancy information of what departments are on the floor. And these are all interactive charting capabilities to access data about the floor plans very quickly. Now we also roll those into what we call themes. So the users can run these reports in TRIRIGA. And let me just zoom out here for you. I'll do a fit view, and they can start seeing things like what organizations are occupying the space. Or they may want to run another type of report on how the space is built out, with what kind of space is on the floor. Or from an occupancy perspective, they want to be able to see what spaces are available on the floor plan to move people into. As I transition my view, once I understand occupancy, one of the games here and the objectives of a planner is to make sure that our occupancy levels are at peak levels. And if we're carrying too much vacancy, do some optimization in the portfolio to get rid of underutilized spaces in that portfolio, which is going to drive our costs down. Paul, as a planner, if I come back to my home page, has a capability to create what we call space plans. And as you saw in our Dallas region, Dallas has low utilization in those 5 buildings in Dallas. So as a planner, Paul went into an exercise to create what's called a Dallas Space Optimization and Consolidation Planning. In this planning capability, we give him the ability to run what we call scenarios. So he can look for the management teams of different things he can do in the portfolio to optimize Dallas in his objectives. What we do in the supply and demand view is we allow you to go in and pull your supply in, which is going to pull data from our real estate module, so we understand that supply over time horizons when that supply is available to me in a nice, elegant way. So let me dive into one of the scenarios and talk about our capabilities at the scenario level. Within the planning world, one of the first views we give him is an analysis of how that supply is currently being used. What you see here is a chart here with the colored bars representing the different supply records. You'll see it stair-stepped over time because my situation in Dallas is I have some leases that are expiring in 2011 and 12. So my real estate supply is going to shrink based on those leases coming offline. Within TRIRIGA, we could take critical actions to that supply by adding supply where I need it and taking action to existing supply where I want to take some action on. In this case, on the real estate action plan, they're looking at one of those leases, the Caldwell lease, and recommending to the real estate team that they close that particular property based on this particular scenario plan. The second tab over here gets into the stacking exercise. And what we provide at the scenario level is an interactive stacking capability to allow the planner to do what-if scenarios, moving departments between these buildings. And one of the objectives was to get these underutilized facilities to a certain occupancy level. They're going to do it by moving departments between these buildings around. What I see here, and if I just minimize it down to a single view, is a stack plan with each tab representing one of the buildings that is in my scenario. Each bar here on the graph represents a floor plan. And the color bars that you see here, the color boxes here, represent the departments that are occupying space on the plan. As I go from tab to tab, I can see each one of my buildings. So I may want to take the folks on the first floor over here, go over to this building and move them over to this site over here on the first floor, or in this case, the 14th floor. The ability to do all these what-if simulations and able to track the movement and ultimately consolidate these buildings down to a manageable level based on our demand. Now, TRIRIGA has provided planning at another level of detail for you down to the space types. So one of the things that we provide is optimal space characteristics, like what we call best fit. And what this best fit will do is tell the planner the best optimal move they can make for this department, understanding the types of spaces they need to perform their job. So what type of workstations, what type of filing support they have in that model here in the system. And lastly, with the planning exercise, along the way as I'm doing my scenarios, TRIRIGA is tracking for you all the changes. So if I move a department to a floor and I got to build out workstations, I need to be able to track those workstation configurations. We also keep track of the move list for you, so at the end of this, if this scenario was to be moved forward and approved, we complete all the move line items available so the move departments have the instructions of what departments are moving where in the organization. And we'll do a complete cost estimate here on the model. So within the scenario itself, not only doing interactive planning for Paul, but we're capturing the change logs of what needs to change from a configuration perspective, moving walls and doors and building workstations. And we're also building a full complementary move list, which understands for each location and each department I'm moving around, what type of space am I moving and where am I moving them to, and developing a full estimated cost for these moves. Now within the planning environment, we also provide the capability to do evaluation of all these scenarios to make the organization, give them decision support capability to make the decision on what scenario best fits the business need. So in this environment here, we have a series of scenarios that we're looking at. And in this planning exercise, we always look at the goals of the plan itself, what we started out with. So in this case, we had a couple operational plans. We had internal rate of returns. We had portfolio utilization targets that we're looking to achieve. And in the model here, we're always comparing against status quo doing nothing against each one of the space scenarios that we're managing, and giving us the ability to make those decisions in a timely and a fiscal basis. Now within here, the next evolution would be to recommend a scenario, and taking this to the next level, TRIRIGA will manage the full execution of that scenario, managing the real estate actions, design and construction actions, and the move actions necessary to support the business change. I hope you enjoyed this segment of TRIRIGA Facilities, and I invite you to explore in more detail how we can drive value in your planning process within your organization. Thank you.